guys, my name is Amish Tripathi and I'm the director of the Nehru Centre. The Nehru Centre is the cultural wing of the Indian High Commission in the UK, and we've been in existence for many decades, and we organize wonderful events at this very auditorium, which is in Mayfair in central London. Sadly, as you can see, the auditorium is empty. It has been empty since we were all put into lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. But what we Indians believe is that the other side of a crisis is an opportunity. And what we have done at the Nehru Centre is moved all our events online. So now if you attend our online events, every single seat is a VIP seat. Like you get a front row at our events. No trouble of parking, no trouble of travelling all the way. And practically all the programs that we would do, like literary discussions and dance performances, musical performances. We are doing them all on our online channels. You can register for our newsletter at our website nehrucentre.org.uk. You don't need to write them down. They will be displayed at the bottom of the screen. You can also come to our Facebook page, which is a verified page, the Nehru Centre. You can follow updates on all our events on Twitter as well, the Nehru Centre. That's also a verified account. Or you can come to our YouTube channel. Again, the Nehru Centre. We are nothing if not consistent. I hope you do come to our online channels and enjoy the events that we are putting up for you. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Namaste. Jai Hind.
Hi guys, my name is Amish Tripathi. I'm the director of the Nehru Centre, and I am particularly delighted today because I'm going to be speaking with my friend Shekhar Kapur, someone I've known for many years and admired for decades. Before we bring him on stage, if I can just actually, why don't we bring him up on stage already? I'll embarrass him with the introduction that I have of him. Hi Shekhar, how are you?
I'm really well. I have to say that even though I'm a director, I can direct lights. But right in front of me is the Nanda Devi and the whole Himalayan peaks. So the light keeps changing. So the light on my face is reflected by the sacred Himalayas. But I'm sorry, but it will keep changing, and I'll keep adjusting. I've got my helpers here. So, the vibrations are from here.
You have a view to die for, man. I'm looking at another building. I'm looking in London across the street at another building. You're looking at the Holy Nanda Devi.
yeah, absolutely, Amish, absolutely. It's beautiful.
So let me get the formalities out of the way. I'll do your formal introduction, and then let's start our conversation.
Okay? Yeah.
Shekhar Kapur was born on 6 December 1945, looks nothing like it. Is an Indian film director, actor and producer, known for his works in Hindi cinema and international cinema. Shekhar became known in Bollywood with his recurring role in the TV series Khandan in the mid-1980s and his directorial debut in the cult Bollywood film Masoom in 1983, which I just saw once again over the weekend and obviously had a cry fest watching it. Masoom won the Filmfare's Critics Award for Best Movie for that year, and Shekhar went on to direct the science fiction film Mr. India, one of the biggest hits in Indian film history. He gained international recognition with the 1994 Bollywood film Bandit Queen, which won the National Film Award for Best Feature Film and the Filmfare Critics Award for Best Movie and Best Direction for that year. In international cinema, his historical biopics on Queen Elizabeth, which is Elizabeth itself, 1998, and Elizabeth, the Golden Age in 2007, earned him critical acclaim and commercial success, with the former winning the BAFTA Award for Outstanding British Film and both winning an Academy Award. Kapur has also been a recipient of the National Board of Review Award as well as an International National Film Award and 3 Filmfare Awards. Shekhar was born in Lahore, Punjab, British India. He studied economics at St. Stephen's College, and at 22, he became a chartered accountant. in England, having studied accountancy at the behest of his parents. Let's bring Shekhar back on and start with accountancy. Shekhar,
Hi.
this is
Yes, hi. Hi. Hello, Amish. I'm just going to add two things that I'm really proud about. That I've been honorary scholar at MIT, and I'm studying, and I'm sure you lead to that,
yeah,
exploring the idea of using modern technologies like artificial reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, and artificial intelligence, and how does it apply to storytelling? And I'm sure we'll come to that question. Also, very, very proud of the series that I did called Pradhan Mantri, which I did that because I thought nobody will see it. तो ठीक है यार, थोड़े से पैसे कमा लूंगा, नहीं करूंगा. But it became a huge hit, and it is one of the most
yeah. Sorry, guys. I think some.
yeah. So
Yeah,
if I go in and out, please forgive the internet. I will be back. So even if so how intelligent TV audiences are that they would take political history if properly told and make it became the biggest news channel series ever. So anyway,
yeah.
I'm showing off a little bit. So let's start.
I loved Pradhan Mantri. I loved Will as well. Your take
Okay.
on William Shakespeare. I'm living in London right now, so we should speak of that too.
Okay, yeah, but not many people in India have seen it, but yes, I love making Will. It was the first thing that I did digitally, and I started to experiment with new forms of filmmaking
Mm.
because William Shakespeare was so much of a theater personality, and I said, how do I shoot this in order to take the audience and put them in the middle of the stage, so they
Mm.
don't feel like they're watching theater, but they're one of the actors. So I experimented a lot with that form, and I really enjoyed making Will, and I think that every film that I do or every series that I do, anything that I do, if it's not pushing the boundaries, if it's not experimenting, then I feel, you're climbing the same mountain. You've done it before. So you go down, then climb up the same mountain. Then you go down and climb up the same mountain. Every mountain, like I'm looking at Nanda Devi, I'm looking at 12 peaks in front of me here.
Yeah.
I can't just go to one peak and come down and go up one peak. You're like that, Amish.
Gets
You
boring.
write like that.
It
Yes,
gets boring.
not. It doesn't. It loses challenge.
Mm.
And the whole idea about doing creative work is to challenge yourself to be different yourself. You're
True.
not challenging the world, you're challenging yourself. Can
True.
I do better? Am I different? Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
true. And that's what, I mean, I was thinking of this. Look, the Nehru Centre is to be a celebration of Indian art, Indian culture, Indian creativity. And one of the things I was thinking is that when you do a master class, one can either approach it as looking at the work that the master has done, which is you, and which we will explore. But I'd love to explore you as a character as well, because I don't think it's just audiences watching this program. There are also potential writers, potential filmmakers who are watching this, and since it's going to be online, they will watch it over again and again because it will remain on record. And I'd love to get them to understand you as a person. What is it that pushed you into accountancy, and things don't get more boring than that. Only life insurance as an industry is probably more boring than accounting. And from there into filmmaking, take me through that journey, man.
So, every middle class boy, at least in my, when I was I was being educated, every middle class boy has to be an engineer, a computer, Indian middle class boy, engineer, computer scientist, or a doctor, or a lawyer, or an accountant. I had to pick one because had to be professional. My parents were part of the Nehru generation. And my parents always said that you have to contribute to the society, you have to contribute to the nation, and this is how you contribute to the nation. And on the other hand, I just wanted to go to London. The internet, we didn't have internet those days, so off I went. But having done accounting and understanding myself for a while, I realized, Amish, that there was one thing I did not want to become a slave to. I did not want to become a slave to a word called career. So my first, when I left accounting, it wasn't to become a filmmaker. It was to become a lawyer.
Sorry, guys, a bit of internet issues, but Shekhar will just be coming back, I'm sure. Just hang on a tick.
Um, I'm going to keep talking, Amish. If you
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you just if I see something says disconnected, I'll keep talking. If you haven't heard it, just ask me again.
Yeah.
So what I
So,
just said is that leaving accounting was the idea of forgetting about being having a career and
hmm,
then going on an adventure. I realized that life also. I think that at about I'll tell you a little story, Amish. When I was 11 or 12, living in Delhi, we used to sleep on the terrace,
yeah.
and Delhi was not a polluted place at that time. There was no sound pollution, light pollution, or pollution, and I could see the Milky Way. It was a time that we were just understanding, as in school 11, 12, you're understanding physics
Uh,
and you're understanding how you measure stuff. And you
uh,
start to understand that actually, if anything has to be something, it has to be measurable. So I
hmm,
remember one day I was lying down and looking at the Milky Way, and I asked my mother, "Mom, how far does this go?"
uh.
And she said, "Forever." Now, I'm
How old
11,
were
12
you?
years old.
Okay.
11, 11, 12. And then I said, okay, let me try and imagine forever. So where does measurement end and
Yeah.
forever start? I was trying to work that out. So when do I get into forever? I'll go here, I'll keep going, I'll keep going. And then suddenly, hey, now I'm in forever. Does that ever happen? And then I remember being, understanding a little bit about what, baby Krishna's mom, she looked into his mouth and she was pulled into forever. And I said, Mom, can you pull me into forever? And honestly, Amish, since that day, I've
Uh,
been in forever. And I've added one thing. And somebody said, how would you describe yourself? And I said, I'm a yearning heart looking for forever. And the
oh,
day that I find it and the day the yearning ends, that's the end of life. So creativity is about a yearning heart, a yearning, 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 desperate yearning heart looking for forever. That's how I would describe myself.
how important is, I mean, just building on that, how important is the heart for a creative person? And what does the education
I
system in
I,
India
I think
do to that heart?
the heart is the very essence of creativity.
Guys, sorry, anyone who's watching, part and parcel of being in the Himalayas. Shekhar gets inspiration from there, but he doesn't get good internet. So let's just be a little patient. He's going to be back soon. We were speaking about about the heart and how important that is for a
While
creative
you would
person, and
see,
he is back once again. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Shekhar,
So I
I was just saying that the beauty of you being in the Himalayas is that you get fantastic inspiration, but you don't
yeah.
get the internet well. So we are talking about the heart and how that drives a creative person.
I think that when I look at the Himalayas, there's something about the yearning that comes. It's a yearning. It's a yearning to go beyond. And whenever it's a kind of an immensity, the
Mm.
Himalayas represent immensity.
Yeah.
So just being here amongst the Himalayas, it gives you a feeling of immensity and it gives you a feeling of oneness with something far, far, far more immense than the mind can imagine.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 I'm just trying to get all the people that are trying to help me out of this thing.
That's cool. That's
Out of
cool.
this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's an idea of immensity. It's the idea that you have also,
Yeah. One of the things. I mean, my family's roots are in Kashi. There used to be a time when at any point in North India you could actually see the Himalaya, and they were always visible. I don't think you know anyone gets the immensity of
uh,
how much Himalaya used to dominate our uh, our, our way of life all the time because they were always visible. I can understand why our ancestors used to see it as the Dev Bhumi because
yeah,
every time you look north, they were visible all across
yeah,
the valley of the Gangaji. Now of course because of
yeah,
pollution, sadly, but yeah, that's
yeah,
where you are.
yeah, yeah. I was just thinking, Amish, because you've written about that, and it's a thing that um, is when you sit in the Himalayas or here, somewhere there's a sense of timelessness, and
Hmm.
the idea of timelessness is really important. And sometimes I ask myself, who am I? Who am I? Am I this moment or am I the next moment? And is the last moment connected to this moment? Is that just not a memory that of snapshots? And then I sit in the Himalayas and say, is time just a construct of the human imagination? Have we just constructed time out of nothing? So I asked scientists and I said, when did time start? And they said, well, actually, it started sort of microseconds after the Big Bang. And I said, so where was time before the Big Bang? And they said, well, for science, time did not exist before the Big Bang. So I said, so when we say time is not
Guys.
passing.
Hmm.
So I'm just going to say, if you lost me,
Yeah.
time, when we talk about time and people say, oh, time's passed, come on, hurry, time's passing. And so then I say, so where is it going? So they say, well, you know, so where's it going? Oh, okay, it doesn't matter. You don't know where it's going, but you know where it's coming from. Well, blah, 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 blah. So you know what I mean? And I keep asking, if you don't keep challenging yourself with these questions, and then if you look at quantum physics, and then you look at the idea of time, and you read what in our Puranas they keep saying about time, the idea that it's imagination, and then you read about duality, and just yesterday I was having a two-hour conversation with ideas about what is in the heartfulness of being. The heartfulness of being is the very essence of creativity, not the mindfulness of being. The mindfulness of being is an ethic and a morality, but the heartfulness of being is the essence of creativity. That's how I see it.
What a
So
wonderful
when
way to
you,
see it. Yeah.
yeah. So you saw Masoom
And
today. Masoom was my first film. I'd never been to a I'd never assisted anybody. I'd never read a book on filmmaking. I'd never read a studio. I didn't even know what editing was all about. I did not know about, sound editing, this thing, picture positive, picture negative. I knew nothing. I just went in with a kind of a sense of heartfulness and
yeah.
said, if it is that moment will tell me what to do. I'll tell you another thing. I don't know if you do it. When I'm shooting these days, I'm
Yeah.
like an obsessive planner.
Yeah.
I'm like a general going to war, not
Uh,
knowing where the bullet might come from. But
uh,
when I get to there, that moment, Amish, of 200 people watching me, I'm spending a $500,000 of somebody else's money, and I'm trying to panic myself. I'm going to try to panic my mind, almost like saying, mind, get out of the way,
uh,
that the heart is, because the heart will recognize what the moment is telling me. And I really, really believe that. And of course, my assistant director will say, so, sir, what's the next shot? And six, 300 people are looking at me. So I go to the actor and say to Kate Blanchett, Kate, how would you see it? How would you do it? I'm just buying time. I'm just panicking. I've not panicked enough. I've not panicked where I start sweating. Then I tell myself, today everybody will find out you don't know how to direct and something, something to get my mind out of the way. So in between that, how in the morning you open the blinds and you just open the blind and a bit of light streaks out. I'm just
yeah.
waiting for that light to streak out. That light that I haven't seen before, that plant that I did not have before, that idea that I did not have before, because the moment has its own idea. So really, I feel the moment is that all that we have, you and I, and then we just put moments together. You write a book, I make a movie, but if the moment doesn't hit you, then the next word does not come, because otherwise it's just a planned thing, Amish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then why are you
And
doing?
that
And why are
doesn't
you
work.
doing?
It's
No,
it's only with that heart. It's like I told you, right? I saw Masoom and well, I had a cry fest in the weekend. I didn't used to cry so much before I became a creative guy. Now I cry not very much, but yes, I do cry a lot more than I used to. And that scene that you had, right, when he saw his son for the first time, he saw Rahul for the first time, and he leans over and rolls the window down, and he asked that should I roll the window down, and then when his hand is coming back, he tries to hold his son's hand, and you don't show the expressions, you don't show anything, and the son, obviously the first time he's meeting a man, he just pulls his hand back, and oh my god, like as a dad, I had tears in my eyes, and these kind of how did this moment strike you? Because this is so pure, it can only come straight from the soul, it can't be planned, right?
yeah, none of
And
that is
any
planned.
father who sees that, like, you feel it straight. You feel it straight in your heart. How did it
Yeah,
strike you?
it was not planned. It was not planned, Amish. I depend a lot on my actors, and I honestly, people don't believe me, but I know you do believe me when I say that the moment speaks to me. If the moment doesn't speak to me, if the moment doesn't catch me, I'm lying. I'm being, I'm being skillful. And Masoom, I hadn't made a film before. There was no skill. So even now, I'm constantly saying to myself, go back to naivety, go back to no skill, go back to no knowledge, go back to nothing.
Hmm.
Just go back and say as if you've never ever made a film before. You don't know what you're doing. That's why I say you have to come down the mountain to climb another mountain. Otherwise, you're just climbing the same mountain again and again. Then why are you creative, Amish? Why do you want to be creative? Then and
Then be an
it's a
accountant, be a banker. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, or be an accountant, or just go make some money and hope that the person who takes over from you will be more creative, and they will be. I promise you. Yeah, they will be more creative. And how do I let go of skill? How do I let go of fame? How do I let go of myself? How do I not exist? How do I not exist? Because the biggest burden that we carry as creative people are a sense of individuality, and our sense of individuality is the burden of ego. Oh,
yeah.
I am me, me. Look at
Nothing
me.
but ego.
Yeah. How do I let go? How do I let go? How do I dissolve myself?
Hmm.
And in that dissolution comes creativity. And I believe that actually, Amish, creativity exists in the universe.
Hmm.
And whatever we access it in that moment, like that, Einstein was working all his life for the theory of relativity and accessed it like that. Like, it was like, oh my God, yeah, that's what it is. And creativity is a vessel. You got to be humble.
Hmm.
You got to be available.
Hmm.
You've got to let go. Just
Hmm.
let go, and you become the vessel. And that's what I tried in Masoom, and that's what I did when I left accounting. I left accounting to be the vessel,
Hmm.
and that's really what I'm still trying. I'm still want to be Amish. Is there any way if you and I work together, let's become
We
the
will.
vessels?
Yeah.
Yeah, we will. And let's
Yeah.
just both become the vessels. We are not the creators. We are the vessels of creativity.
Hmm.
We are the subjects of creativity. We just pray and hope that a creativity comes to us, and it'll only come to us with humility. It'll only come to us with vulnerability. The more vulnerable you are, and that's always the problem with the film business. And it's like the more vulnerable you are, people then uh, take vulnerability for weakness. And what they don't realize, Amish, is that vulnerability is the greatest strength you can have. It is for a creative person. The most powerful tool in your hand is to be vulnerable, to let go of yourself, to let go of your individuality. And yet people around and say, well, what are you doing? If I said to people at that moment, Shekhar, what are you doing? Oh, I'm being vulnerable. I'll get fired. They'll say, oh, please take this guy out of the set. What do you mean you're being vulnerable? Get on with your job. And then I'll have to say, well, actually, it's not a job. I'm
But tell me one
accepting
thing.
creative.
Tell me one thing
Go
that
ahead.
strikes me. Because I mean, in all your movies, in Masoom and Mr. India and Elizabeth, in Mr. India, when that little girl, when she died, and moments which are so powerful, which really pull you in. In Masoom, once again, it's fresh because I just saw it when he's made that bangle box, for Shabana Azmi, and her first reaction is love towards him, and then she hears her husband and she just pulls back. Powerful moments, but the key thing in a story
Um,
is that,
Amish,
yeah, hello,
no, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Ask me the question
yeah.
again. I lost you for a
Okay.
moment. Please go ahead.
But the key thing in holding a story together, and you find that happening with some books, with some movies, with some filmmakers, with some authors, they're able to build powerful moments. Somehow it doesn't string together into a story, right? So you have a cathartic moment, and then at the end of it, you're like, what is the point, of the story? Whereas in Masoom, that wasn't lost. Like one of the things that hit home to me so much is the sheer dignity of Rahul as a child. The way that little child, and he was the most blameless chap in the entire thing. The way he conducted himself with so much grace, so much dignity. You know, how do you? Where do you draw that balance? I don't know if you're getting my question. That there are
Okay. I
powerful moments. Sometimes you can get lost in the present, in the moment. Doesn't string together into a good story. How
Yeah.
do you find that balance? How do you do that? And that's something I'm sure for most creative people is a very very critical
So,
challenge to
yeah,
conquer.
I think that no scene ends, no film ends, no creative act ends, no dialogue ends, no performance ends It's not like in 2 hours a film ends. I think everything is a sparking of a new thought. Everything is a sparking of a new moment, of a new action. And somehow, if you give yourself to it, it strings together as a story. But each thread in Masoom or any really, I don't want to say it's a good film, you say it. So,
It's a damn good
and
film.
anything,
It's a
it's a
classic.
sparking of a thought. So, really, if
Yeah.
you look at Masoom again, thoughts that come strung together
Hmm.
as represented by the actors. So let's look at a painting. When does creativity end? It has no end. If I'm looking, it ends with the thought process of the audience. Or a painting, when you watch a Van Gogh painting, if you see, say, Starry Nights, I
Hmm.
still think of Starry Nights. So his painting hasn't ended. It
Hmm.
is continues with me and with everybody else and with
Hmm.
everybody else. It continues and it continues. And that's what I feel is in Masoom, because I didn't try to string it together. I just kept on like looking for things that were touching, real, emotional, everything. And then you just hope it strings together. And that's why I say a script is not a film.
Hmm.
A film is not an end. It is an act of creativity that just goes on and on and on and on. With creativity, a creative thought doesn't end. It ends with everybody having a say in it.
Sorry, guys. Again, some internet issues, but like we know, the Himalayas give you inspiration, but not the internet. He'll be
Oh,
back
one,
soon.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm back.
you're back
I'm
on.
back.
You're back on. Yeah. So
So
we
I'm
can
just
keep
saying that,
listening.
yeah, yeah, creative act is not an act that ends. A film doesn't end. A book doesn't end.
Hmm.
It continues with every reader, every thought of the reader, and that's I'm going to come back to. That's one of the things that we do, and we think everything ends. But let's talk about the Mahabharata.
Hmm.
When did it end? Before there was a Gutenberg press and before it was published, everybody kept talking. Everybody kept narrating. Every narrative was different, not just in the words that were used, but in the tone that was used. My grandmother narrating a scene to me from Mahabharata, and the same scene managed told to me by a friend is a different emotion. It's a different tone, like a mantra, if it's a different way of saying it. And so when does it end? When does the Mahabharata ever ended till we came up with saying, okay, let's publish it? Then we published it, and then there came the three-act structure. But I think that we had the opportunity to go back to that where we don't need to say, I think we've got as human beings, we've started to define things too much. And defining is confining. We started to confine things too much. And we confine ourselves to a film, a dialogue, a performance, or this thing. But it doesn't. It doesn't. And if you can see a film again and again, one of my favorite films is a Kubrick film called 2001: Space Odyssey.
Oh yeah,
Every
yeah.
time I see it, every time I see it, it's a different story because the film grows with me,
Yeah.
grows with my thought process. Then I see the new me in the film. Then I see the new me in the film. Everything changes. And that was the genius of a filmmaker who understood that I'm not telling a story, I'm creating things and ideas, and I'm putting myself forward for people to take home and then make sense of them. So I am not making sense of Masoom to you. You are making sense of Masoom to yourself. If you talk to everybody else who's on this call listening, perhaps they will say, Masoom is a film that is created by a filmmaker who
Sorry, guys. He'll be back soon. To everyone who's listening, I mean, is they're fantastic thoughts. Thank you so much, Ginza, for sharing, for saying if connectivity stalls in between, we are patient. Thank you so much. Uh, Shekhar Kapur is worth waiting for. Uh, the internet will be back soon. Just hang on a bit. I'm going to ask him a bit more on his acting career. I'm sure many of you guys, I don't know how many of you have seen the acting that he did in Udan, for example. It was a television serial that had come out, Doordarshan, and he's actually acted. He's actually sung a song as well. I'm going to embarrass him a bit on that. But as soon as his internet connection comes back on, until then, I'm going to keep trying to keep you busy with. I have no idea what. I mean, I'm not going to start singing the song out here. Okay, let's just hang on. I'm sure he'll be back soon. Guys, do we want to take break at this time. Perhaps we can just have a non-commercial commercial break, and let's show.
In India, I learned that you don't add masala just to the food. You add it to everything you do. I learned that flavour is more than a taste. It's a sight. It's a sound. It's a science. In India, I found the secret masala spices that make all the difference. The joy with which you cook. The love with which you serve.
Incredible India.
Hey Shekhar, you're back on. Shekhar, we just took a quick break in the middle. We showed a very nice Incredible India ad, and now you're back on. And so we were speaking of the story never ends. We should let the creativity just flow.
Okay, I'm going to take it. Isko band kar do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not completing this. Interpretation. I had one interpretation, you had another interpretation. I didn't complete the film.
Yeah, that's the beauty of a story, right? I mean, there's one of the things that I'd heard this wonderful line once, that a story is in the control of the filmmaker or the storyteller till such time as the story has not been released. After that, the ownership of the story is with the audience, and they have every right to make their own interpretation of it, and they add of themselves into the story. Amish, why don't you meanwhile talk about what the... Okay, I'm going to answer some of the questions. Why don't meanwhile talk about what the other lined up conversations are? Thank you, Anubha. That's a good question. We have many exciting conversations lined up, over the next few months. We're going to have the famous American Vedic scholar, David Frawley, more popularly known as Vamadevji, coming to us, to our platform soon. We will have Arvind Panagaria. Shekhar is back.
Okay.
Sorry, Shekhar, I was just, someone asked that if I could speak of, some of the other conversations that we will be doing over the next month or two. But you're talking about, a story that never ends, and the creator kind of just puts his interpretation out. And there's one of the things that I had heard, that essentially a storyteller, filmmaker, author, anyone is in control of the story till such time as the story is released. After that, it's in the hands of the audience, and they will obviously add parts of themselves into the story. Like part of how I see Masoom, obviously, is my experience as a father. Obviously, it's natural.
But it goes further than that, Amish. Every moment of a film, as you're making it, is the beginning of a story. And then when it all gets... And a film is made on the script table, then the editor comes in, and the composer comes in, and then they put their interpretation out. But even then, it goes further, and it goes further for the audience interpretation. And that's what I keep saying. It says the story never gets completed. The scene never gets completed. The dialogue never gets completed. The expression on the actor's face doesn't get completed because it goes to the audience. And then it goes to the audience, and the audiences go home, and then they interpret it. Then they talk about it. And they interpret it. There is no creative act that actually ends. It just goes on. It's like the universe. It's creation and destruction and created. I create, then you destroy, and then I create and you destroy. But that's another very complex and very deep question about the idea of the same thing being created and destroyed in the same moment. But let's talk about next time. That's more a conversation spiritual. Yeah.
Part of our deeper philosophies. I wanna speak a bit, and I wanna embarrass you a bit. about your experiences as an actor. There's a video clip that a friend of mine had shared with me, which I shared with you. I'm not going to play it here, don't worry. About you singing a song on the beach.
Oh my God! Oh my
Yeah.
God!
And my friend found
I
you very dishy, by the way.
no, I am so embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed about my experiences as an actor, and I realized how bad I am as an actor
You
after
were
I
good,
worked
man.
with people.
I thought you
I
were
mean,
fantastic in Udan. Take me through what the
ha,
experience of Udan was like.
Udan was the director. That
Hmm.
was it. I was just asking whatever the director used to tell me I would do. And now when I see Udan, and I say, "Oh, you were not bad, Shekhar." But what I'm saying is, "Oh, okay, I wasn't bad because the director knew what to do with me." I
Hmm.
just gave myself to the director and took away all responsibility off my shoulders. It was the director, and really, it was she directed me like. And then when I saw it, and I said, "Ah, I just saw it recently," and I said, "Acha, that wasn't so bad. It wasn't so
It
bad.
was
That wasn't
fantastic,
so bad."
actually. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
but that was the director. It was really the director.
How
Yeah.
was the experience for you giving up control? I know you are, as any good creative person, there are times when you surrender, there are times when you like to kind of hold on to the moment and be a control freak. How does it work? I'm a heavy control freak. One of my challenges in partnerships is how to give up control.
Yeah.
How was that
I think
experience?
there's another word for control, Amish, and I think you're too hard on yourself. It's called interpretation. You know, when you give yourself to a creative act and you open yourself up, and the moment you're looking for the moment, and you open the window and a slight light streaks in, you interpret that light, and you
Mm,
hold on to your interpretation because that's all there is. Because
mm,
your intuitive idea of that interpretation, when you've given up control,
mm,
is something so valuable, something so precious, and
mm,
you don't want to give it up because that was your intuition. So you're not controlling as a control freak. You're controlling the bubble of your intuition because
mm.
if you lose it, then it's gone. You know, that's what you do. Yeah,
Okay.
right.
But take me through that song performance on the beach. How was the shoot like?
Embarrassing. Everything about that was embarrassing. And because I was acting with Shaban Azmi, who was already like an award winner and had won so many awards, and there was me throwing my hands all over the place. My biggest problem with actors now, because I was an actor, and I keep saying to them, if you don't know what to do with your hands, control your hands because your hands give away your nervous tension. The other thing, if anybody's becoming a director and you realize that the actor is tense, is this. They keep doing this, and this is really. I look for sources of stress in actors, and I see them doing this, and I say, you know what? On screen, this eyebrow will go up 20 feet, so be careful. But I can see it, and then and then some actors are so good at hiding their stress. I look at their toes, and if they're curled up, I know they're stressful. So part of my job
Ah,
is to take fear away from actors. Part of my job is to make them trust themselves because I can't act. I can't tell a child how to act. I can't tell Siobhan Osme, Kate Blanchett, Heath Ledger, or Jeffrey Rush to how to act. I can only help them release themselves. So in a way, you're a psychologist waiting because they are professional enough to understand and to interpret their parts. And for example, when I was doing Bandit Queen, I had said that I will not rehearse any scene. I will not rehearse a scene. We would talk till 4 o'clock in the morning about what a scene could mean. And then they said, oh, I know what it means. And then I'd say, well, maybe it means that. Maybe it means that. Maybe it means that. Maybe there's another deeper interpretation, like peeling onion layers off. But the only time that they would play the scene is in front of the camera.
mm,
And that's the only reality. And I said to them, I'll tell you a little story about Bandit Queen when I was talking to Seema Biswas, because I was supposed to be, like Indian director of fame. She was very excited and she said, "Tell me the story. Tell me the story. Tell me the character arc and all of that, all the professional questions."
mm,
And I'm saying, okay, I didn't know how to make the film at that time. But when she asked me that, I said, as usual, I fobbed it off on the actor. I said, "Go home, Seema, write a 2-page character arc." So she was a big theater actor. I'd seen her on stage. Tigmanshu Dhulia was my casting director, and he took me to see her. And I cast her. The next
ah,
day or 2 days later, she became with page and a half, 2 pages. And I suddenly knew what I had to do with the film. So I looked at Seema and I said, Seema, now go back and describe yourself in 2 pages. Of course you can't do that. Because whatever I am not. So then she said, I can't do that. I can't describe. I can't confine myself to 2 pages because what I confine myself today is not true tomorrow. So I said, then how can we confine somebody else's life to 2 pages? So let's explore the life. Let's each one. And I said, look, let's all be honest. If you're dishonest, I'm a director enough to know that you're being dishonest. Let's assume that your right is not my right. I mean, what I interpret and you interpret, we all have different interpretations. Isn't that wonderful? We shoot a scene, all of us have different interpretations, and the audience can take any interpretation home.
True.
But we'll be honest. If you're nervous, you're nervous. If you can't do the scene, you can't do the scene. But don't lie to me. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to the film. Don't lie to the character. That was it. That's how we made Bandit Queen. And then, the editor came in, and Renu Saluja, probably, we lost her, but she was amazing, amazing. And a little story about Renu, because I used to go in and she saw, as I was watching her cutting, because we used to do the Steenbeck, not digital. We used to cut on film. And I liked cutting on film because it made you think about every cut. These days, you just type something and you say, oh, aise kar do. And then you are playing with toys, with digital toys. But I used to go into the other room and start screaming and shouting and screaming, shouting. And I used to come up and she said, what are you doing, Shekhar? Why are you going to the other room? And I said, I was really angry when I shot it, the film. I was angry at myself. I was angry at everything. I want to recollect that anger before I see how it's cut. Otherwise, how can I interpret it? And she said, oh my God, you directors, you're crazy. No wonder you drive yourself crazy. You drive your editors crazy. But that's what, these are experiences that
you have to be in that emotional space. It's like,
yeah.
Often with a book, when you've written something and when you're editing it, if you're in a different emotional space, when you're editing that scene, you'll screw it up. You have to be in that same emotion. I'm going to take some of the questions as well, that keep coming up. One of the questions was, what has been your most difficult shoot of your long career? Which one has challenged you the most?
I think that if my shoots are not difficult, I can't perform. There's no easy shoot. If it's an easy shoot, then it's a poor shoot. Every shoot, every scene, because you expose yourself vulnerable, you're asking yourself questions, you're challenging. Something says, this is how to shoot it. And the other question, well, how do you know this is how to shoot it, Shekhar? There must be 10 other ways to shoot it. How do you know? So every shoot, I look for myself, am I being honest? If I find an honesty of me in myself, then it's a difficult shoot. But the degree of difficulty is kind of technical sometimes. You're shooting a war scene like I was doing in Four Feathers. It's bringing, you have 600 extras. You have, people on camels and guns and all of that. So that was a tough shoot. It was a tough shoot, but I did it because I loved it. As a kid, I always wanted to shoot something like a big war scene with, spears. And so I did it. But it was, what tough is fun also. There's nothing that is not fun. Otherwise, why do it? Why do it? You go home exhausted. Yeah. And
the thing with epic movies and epic scenes is you have these film aficionados searching desperately for mistakes. Like that famous, there was a scene apparently in Ben-Hur where there was a Ferrari somewhere. Some backdrop. Someone missed it. Some assistant director missed it.
Yeah. But isn't it fascinating that we go back to search for the Ferrari in Ben-Hur? That's what's so fun about it. Yeah.
If you have 600 people, one of them is not putting one of the soldiers in the background is not, is not putting his life and soul into it. Yeah. And
I have to tell you, when I was shooting Golden Age, Amish, there were all these extras going around dressed in the British costumes and carrying fake guns and fake spears and things. And suddenly I noticed the one face and I said, I know that face. It was my cook, like from India, dressed up as a British soldier going in front of me. And I said, hey, wait, what are you doing in this thing? Sir, वो extra का पैसा मिल रहा है, मैंने कहा कर लो. Yeah. So,
All kind of things that happen on shoots.
Yeah. It was fun. It was real fun.
Sadiq Desai has an interesting question. Is your Indian, I mean, and you don't have to answer stuff that you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like I said, we are a diplomatic platform. Is your Indian philosophical frame of mind suitably compatible with Hollywood, Bollywood? Since things are mixed up with so many scandals, we don't have to speak of the scandals if you don't
No,
choose to. But
I
yeah,
think I'll avoid that. Yeah.
no,
How do you define a scandal?
yeah,
It's again, I think that even we are all subject to keywords and we are slaves to keywords.
yeah.
So scandal is what is a scandal? And I know what people are referring to. I think that there is scandal in all our lives. I'm sitting here. So what is a scandal?
Hmm.
Yeah, whatever the press picks up and makes a huge thing about it becomes a scandal. But this is the only answer I'll give to this question because I know where it's coming from.
Fair, fair.
The death of
Well, and
one of my potentially favorite actors, the death of one, how can that be a scandal? That's a death of a
the
great,
tragedy.
great actor. Yeah, it's a tragedy. It's not a scandal. It's a tragedy,
What
and
a good man he was. But
yeah.
it's a,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, and I guess it's one of the problems in today's day that there is no calm reflection on subjects. We just tend to swing. This is unfortunate. We miss the deeper parts of life and deeper connections.
Yeah, I know. We miss that, and let's not forget that we're in an artificial way, where all of us are, we are in fear of COVID, and
Hmm.
that fear is driving a lot of what we say and what we do. And it's just everybody sitting at home in little houses, little homes,
Hmm.
and being driven to fear. And it's part of COVID also. It's one of the things we watch. The after effects of COVID also is child abuse, wife
Hmm.
of woman abuse. So it's all
Exactly, it is
part of
happening.
the artificial bubble that we are in right now with COVID, and yeah, I empathize with what's happening with people.
Yeah. There's an interesting question from Darshini. Darshini Joshi. I had a moment this morning when I was delving into despair. I wanted to get on with creativity, but was feeling stifled with COVID limitations. How do you manage disruption as a creative person? You surrender to fate. I don't know if Darshini is a writer or a music composer, but she's clearly in the creative space. What do you think?
I can, yeah,
Despair.
I've never got up in the morning in my life and not got into despair.
Hmm.
I think what happens is that overnight you get into a dream state,
Hmm.
and you're actually floating. You're actually, you are probably letting go of your ego at night. And for the first thing in the morning, the ego comes to you and says, "Oh, so you thought I'd gone, right? Let me come back to you." And ego is so associated with fear that the ego, when it comes and hits you so hard, the harder you try to escape your individuality and ego, the harder it comes back at you. So when you first thing in the morning, you look up and say, "Oh no, I'm free," and the ego says, that's what you think, you're free. Let me tell you, I am going to enclose you with fear again." And because in the COVID, we should be empathetic towards ourselves. We should be sympathetic towards ourselves because we know that normally you go out for a jog or you'll go meet some friends and you'll have a meeting and you'll do all kinds of things. So let's be compassionate to ourselves. Let's not beat ourselves up too much because we know we're in a special case here. So Darshini is it, and I can tell you the only way to do it is to be compassionate. Be compassionate to others, be compassionate to yourself, and out of that compassion, probably your creative will come back again. She says, I create musicals. That's fantastic. I love musicals. I love them. She does. She go on, keep creating musicals. What's stopping you right now? Even if you can't get onto a stage with 20 other people creating musical, create it in your mind, right? Once you create it in your mind, you're creating intention. Nothing in COVID will stop you from creating an intention, and that intention ultimately will become so powerful that it will come out of it. So the intention drives us. Intentions constantly drive us because intention is thought, and great intentions and passionate intentions are powerful thoughts. Powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you know. Perfect answer, Darshani. I mean, there are these challenges are a part of life, and what Shekhar is saying is so right. Be compassionate to yourself as well, and spend time in creating something. And we will see it. And the COVID scenario is not going to last forever. It is going to end soon. Uh, Aditya is asking Aditya Karamvelkar, any chance of Pani being remade? I was fascinated by that story. I've heard it from you with your global reach, and the because it is a topic that is so particularly relevant for
Yeah,
the modern
yeah,
day.
yeah. See, I was very upset when I saw Slumdog Millionaire being touted as a British film. And when it was written by an Indian, there were Indian actors, it was shot in India, albeit by a friend of mine who was British. But what made it not an Indian film? What, when we got 11 Oscars, didn't they say, here's an Indian film getting 11 Oscars? No, it was a British film. So I decided that I'll make Pani in India. I'll get funding from India because the only thing was where the funding came from. I'll get funding from India. I'll make it an Indian film. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. I mean, unfortunately, it shouldn't have worked out. I should have known that, Aditya Chopra and I were different minds. So I don't, we just couldn't agree on my script and ultimately saying. So I will make Pani now, and I don't think that theaters are coming back or opening up for next year. And maybe that's a good thing because Pani has so much value. Even today, Amish, I was reading that the Indian farmers and somebody has taken to High Court to say, who does groundwater belong to? That's a fundamental theme in water. Whose water is it anyway? Who does water belong to? And the fundamental thing that even I constantly keep saying to myself is water the new colonization? Will the powerful take over all the water resources or international corporations take over the water resources and then control people? That's the story of money. That how it's a time when people are controlled socially, politically, in every which way. It's very simple. You give us the votes, democracy is still alive, give us the votes, we'll give you water. And that, in a world, that's the world that created water in because it's about to come. If you're not careful, that's what will happen. So that's and the other question, but I'm doing it now. I'm rewriting it as a series.
Awesome, awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved the brief when you told me. I'd love to see it. Yash
Yeah.
Chandan has a question, Shekhar. This I didn't know of. Are you going to work on a biography of our former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee? I don't know if he's confusing it with your series Pradhan Mantri. But is there a project like this? Guys, sorry, it appears that the internet is causing some trouble again. We'll just wait for Shekhar to come back on. Actually,
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back.
want to
No,
make
I'm
this.
not working. I'm not working on a biography of Atul, of Mr. Vajpayee. Although I knew him and he was such a compassionate man. He was such a great speaker. I mean, I love hearing him in Parliament. I often go back to him speaking in Parliament, and there was this gentleness, this compassion, but behind that compassion was firmness, and that's what I say. People think compassion and being firm are two different things. No, the more compassionate you are, the firmer you can be because you're honest, being honest with yourself, and honesty has a certain firmness.
True, true.
Right?
And Vajpayee certainly, encompass that. And anyone who's a lover of words and articulation, I mean, the way he could communicate, there was no one like him. And his command over Hindi, the way he, fascinating leader, fascinating man, fascinating poet that he was.
Yeah, no, I think that he was a remarkable man, not just as a prime minister, but hugely remarkable poet. Everything, yeah, man, yeah.
Okay, Anjan Bhaumik has a question. Masoom sequel.
Yeah.
Masoom sequel. A
So
very
he
short,
said,
simple,
yeah,
telegraphic question.
I'm going to say something to you that will surprise everybody that Mr. India was Masoom sequel. It was
Oh,
about children. About children. I used to have,
yeah.
yeah, I had I always had an 11-year-old kid, a mini me sitting next to me. And whenever I would shoot something with Mogambo, I would ask mini me, the 11-year-old kid sitting next to me and say, Kaisa tha? अरे यार बुड्ढा हो गया तू, इतना boring था that. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, I've got to change that. So Masoom, I still remember when Amrishi asked me, Amrish Puri, he said, how do I play Manga Boy? I said, you've done Shakespeare, play it as Shakespeare. He said, what? Kya baat kar raha hai? Shakespeare. I said, no, play Shakespeare to a village audience, 11-year-old kids in a village audience who've never heard of Shakespeare, play Mogambo like that, as if you're trying to explain, ye Shakespearean hota hai. Now, after I said that, go back and watch Mr. India. You realize that
Okay.
it's so Shakespearean and so over the top in its Shakespearean way, the way he said it, yeah, it was very Shakespearean, like, but to an audience full of children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So,
One of the things that I do agree, the good thing about children, there is no false politeness. If they
yeah,
don't like it, they'll tell you straight, I hate it. If they love
yeah,
it, they'll tell you straight, they love it. There's no false
yeah,
politeness. So you get honest feedback, which is difficult to get from adults because adults are always thinking of,
yeah.
how will the other person react, to what I say.
One of the instructions I always had when there were trials of Mr. India: go out in the streets and bring all the kids you can and fill the theater, so that the distributors will see how kids react, and then the picture will be sold. Always used to do that.
Okay, Swami Yati Dharmananda, Nanda, sorry. He's asking, how do you deal with rejection and failure when creativity is not manifested? Very, very interesting. Thank
Yeah.
you, Swami, for the question.
Well, let's start with failure. Failure and success are like when, on a slightly windy day, when you're watching the ocean, you watch the peaks and the troughs and the peaks and the troughs. And I say, okay, that's what failure and success is like. There is not full stops. The commas: failure, success, failure, success, failure, success. Now, it happens so fast. It's when you take time out of failure and success, then they're the same thing. Take the idea of time away, it
Yeah.
just becomes the same thing: failure and success. So, if I take a camera that can run at 40, 50,000 frames a second,
Yeah.
and I'll shoot those things, it'll go like that. And I'll say, there's a crest, there's a trough, there's a crest, there's a trough. But if I shoot at normal speed, there's a crest, trough, crest, trough, crest, trough. And that's how I look at failure and success. It's just got to do, and no successive. They just follow each other. And it's also interpretation. It's my failure. I mean, it's your interpretation of failure and success. They're not absolute. Who are you judging failure and success through? Whose eyes? I remember when Bandit Queen was the first release, everybody said fail away, and then said nahi bahut successful away, up fail away, up successful away. So you have to stop. I think the question was also rejection. I think you have to stop rejection and failure and success. As long as you keep looking at yourself and judging yourself, reflected off other people's eyes, yeah, then you'll feel failure and success and rejection all the time because people want to do that to you, right? But when they're doing it to you, they're talking about their fear of failure and their fear of rejection and their fear or dreams of success. It's not yours. So you've got to look at it from, you cannot do that just because you get a bad review from a newspaper. So you got a bad review from a newspaper. So, it's not failure. You get a good review. I remember when Elizabeth released, New York Times said it's the MTV version of the Great British Court Dramas. And I was celebrating. I thought MTV was a great thing. Somebody said, no, it's actually criticism. I said, oh, sorry. But to me, it was like, that's what I was trying to create. So it was great. And then when New York Times has this wonderful critic, says this wonderful, when Golden Age was released, they said, what happened to that brilliant director of Elizabeth? Guys, you actually criticized and said that was bad. You should look at Sholay reviews, terrible, 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 terrible.
You're right, actually. People forget that. Sholay got terrible reviews, and the first week it wasn't doing too well also, if I'm not mistaken. They took off from the second week onwards.
Yeah, and they just banned it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, I still remember one review of Sholay when I went back to look at it. They said, "Yeah, वो Gabbar Singh की आवाज की problem है, villain नहीं लगता वो." And he turned out to be the greatest villain of all time. Yeah. So where was success? Where was failure? It's just timelines.
True.
There's
one question from Bridge Guhare. Dear Shekhar ji, I'm curious, did you ever have an opportunity of meeting with Phulan Devi in your life, and how was your experience?
I wasn't allowed to meet Pooran Devi. I tried. So I based Pooran Devi on a book called The Prison Diaries of Pooran Devi, where
Okay.
there was a writer that actually went in and she spent about a year with her, writing everything that she said down. And then when the film was released, of course, it got in a lot of controversy and everything. But I met Pooran Devi and she said, Mr. India जैसे गाने होंगे? Hang on. Wait a minute. Then I talked to her about it, and then she saw the film, and then it all got very complicated. She said, "ये बिल्कुल यही मेरी कहानी है." And then, of course, she had to withdraw that statement. So it got, as like everything in India, it gets very political.
Hmm.
And but I did meet her, and she was, as you would expect. One thing I always remember, I'll never forget this, and that has a lot to do with what's going on with media right now. Amish, when nobody had met her when I
Hmm.
made the film,
Hmm.
nobody met her. And she was described as this Amazonian woman of great beauty that everybody fell in love with. And when I met her, no, then the first time people saw her, the first time the media saw her, they saw that she was an Amazonian. And from an Indian point of view, she wasn't this fair, beautiful woman. And they completely castigated her.
Hmm.
They completely went against her. Before that, she was this great, mythical figure that had come up and "Arey, ye to
Completely
kuch nahi hai,
different.
ye ordinary thi hai." And I saw the media going and saying, hang on, guys, hang on. You know what? Are you judging everything from the way people look? But when I met Poolan Devi, she, her moods went from one to another, to one place to another. They fluctuated very wildly. But as you would expect, somebody who had lived 11 years, 12 years in prison and been through the life that was portrayed. But
Very
I think
different.
the biggest compliment to me for the film was that when she was fighting elections, she took because the picture was banned at that time, she took a banned video and started to distribute it saying, "Dekho, aisa hua mere saath." There was an election platform also. But yeah, there was it. She was interesting, very interesting woman, and sorry to have what happened to her afterwards.
There was a question that was asked earlier. I'm forgetting by who. I think uh, Shivani. A question on, because you mentioned Slumdog Millionaire,
Yeah.
and there is this thing we Indians feel that sometimes there is, for the want of a better term, poverty porn. They just want to show, how destitute India is, so that they can feel bad for us. One sees that of sometimes in the way journalists cover us as well. What are your thoughts on that? Is that something you buy, or is that something that you think is uh,
And there are 2 points of view, and it can get, I mean, what I see in journalism now, you can either be writing or making a film for Western consumption because you want to be famous in the West.
hmm,
But then there's another point of view. You're not an artist unless you rebel.
hmm,
Rebellion is a fundamental of creativity also. It drives creativity. And if we don't criticize our own society, who will?
fair point?
So I didn't make Bandit Queen for the West. I just made Bandit Queen. It was the one film I made really from instinct. Because I was told that I had a very small budget for it, and I
Hmm,
was told, "वो एक TV show के लिए काफी है budget. उसके बाद you can't make budget." So I
hmm,
realized I was making a really film very cheap. So
hmm,
I could just make it from the heart and from the instinct and everything. I didn't even think the film would ever release.
hmm,
I just made it. So it wasn't like I am making this film for consumption in the West.
hmm,
But I can say this forever, who are the artists we remember? We remember Van Gogh because he painted against what was happening to miners. We
hmm,
artists have carried the responsibility on our shoulders to criticize our own society,
hmm,
not to give. We don't give answers because we don't have them, but at least we can raise the questions. It's
hmm,
an artist's job to raise questions. Okay,
hmm.
so there are two aspects. But if you start doing writing or creating films just for consumption in the West, then you're doing something else. But if you're making it from the heart, then something else.
Hmm. Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
Honesty without, I guess, bias on
Yeah,
any
honesty without bias, without a particular
bias on
market
any
in mind. Something else. Yeah.
fair point. Fair point. Fair point. Vikas Wadhwani has a question. Please share with us some good movies or Netflix series you watched and liked during the lockdown. Okay. Vikas, I'm assuming you're not, a Netflix or a movie channel employee trying to promote anything. So I'm joking.
No, I have to tell you that I've not been watching Netflix. I haven't, because I've been up in the mountains. So I see the problems I'm having with my internet. But really, I came to Munsiari in
Hmm.
Uttarakhand because of water issues. I wanted to go and I was going to photograph the Milam Glacier. It's one
Hmm.
of the largest glaciers and one of our fastest retreating glaciers in the world. And as I was there, the lockdown happened. So I've just been traveling the Himalayas for 6, 7, 8 months now.
Hmm.
So I haven't really had the bandwidth to watch. And if you're sitting in the Himalayas, the kind of experiences that you're having, Netflix or any other films, they don't come near to those experiences. They just don't. I could just stare at the mountains and I will get far greater experiences and far more perceptive ideas and experiences than Netflix will give me. I'm not saying Netflix is bad. I'm sure it's
Yeah,
great.
no, of course.
Yeah, I've just been wandering, so I haven't had a chance to watch anything in the lockdown.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, there's a wonderful way to spend time, but one should experience it all, and nothing like an experience in the Himalayas.
Yeah,
Truly, the closer to the gods. It truly
yeah,
is the yeah.
yeah.
On that,
Closer. Yeah, you're constantly fighting, or not fighting. I'm still that little boy looking for forever. So I'm constantly going around the mountain saying, "ये चीज कहाँ है? ये forever कहाँ है?" The yearning heart, the yearning for forever heart is me. That's it. And Netflix won't satisfy that for me. Nothing.
Netflix is beautiful as well. If any Netflix guy is watching this, but
Yeah.
what one loves most as a friend and as a fan of your work, Shekhar. I'm a big fan of everything of all your work. Despite all your accomplishments, everything that you've achieved in life, your wonderful childlike innocence. Your That's what makes you such an awesome creative person. It's the openness of your heart.
Because life is play.
Yeah,
What
life
is it? What is life if it is not play? What is creativity if
Leela.
it's not play?
Is
Arey,
Leela.
yeah, it's Leela. It's constantly, it's just Leela. It's play. Yeah, that's all it is. And the
On
day you
that,
can understand the duality of there being consciousness and then there's being Leela, and I accept that both are important. The
yeah,
idea of nothingness and the idea of play, they're both working at the same time.
yeah. Oh, wonderful. And what a fantastic note to end this lovely conversation on. Shekhar, it's been an absolute pleasure. And we have to catch up now as soon as I'm hoping to come back to India in October.
Great.
So we will, if you are around, we'll certainly try and catch up in Mumbai. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for gracing Nehru Centre with your presence. You've honored
It's
us.
been a pleasure. Pleasure. And I think that more fans of yours that push you to do something with me, the happier I'll be.
I'm looking forward to it. So we got to discuss that when I come down in October.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Take care, my friend. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you.
Racing has taken me all over the world, but when I put on the helmet, I am still in India. India, where I found yoga.
Slow down, breathe.
I have breathed in India's magic. I have felt its warmth. Yoga has taught me the truth about life and motorcycles. That the more still you are, the further you can go.
Incredible in